Welcome back to Inspired by Jimmy L, the reboot, where we do short and sweet, quick interviews to inspire you while encouraging myself along the way. Let's see who we have on today. Catch you on the other side. Okay, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Inspired by Jimmy L, the reboot. So today, I want to ask you this straightforward. Who are you and what do you do?
My name is Johnny Iannelli. I am an artist and an entrepreneur. I like to do art that is nostalgia related, and that podcast network is focused a lot on authenticity, general conversation, just learning from each other. We really value human connection.
I will say, so number one, on the human connection, I love it. That's why I had to reboot this. It's something I used to do years ago, and I'm like, I had to bring it back. I missed this communication. I kind of got stuck in my own little silo. So going back one additional second, the reason why I asked that question is because it is, again, one of those things that I absolutely hate. And when you hate something that badly, you might as well just go for it, put it out there, and deal with it. And so that's where it comes from. It didn't come out of nowhere. So why you, Johnny? Why do you feel the need to create in this manner? Why do you feel that you are the one that has to create the way that you are creating?
Why? Because one, it brings so much happiness to me, but what I've seen, which just adds to even more happiness to me, is seeing some of the happiness it brings to others. Some of the responses that I've received from my art have been, one, exactly what I was going for, and two, like very complimentary. For instance, I made a painting kind of 8-bit style or 16-bit style of Duck Hunt, which people my age are very familiar with Duck Hunt.
Is that the old Nintendo game thing?
Yes, with the laughing dogs and stuff. Yeah.
Got it.
So I made the painting. I showed it at a local gallery that I work with and contribute with. And one of the attendees came to find me to tell me, I can hear your painting. And like that's exactly what I'm trying to trigger, is like bringing back nostalgic memories from your childhood, from your past, that were happy memories or that brought you joy. I mean, Duck Hunt is a game that I've not only played with myself for hours, but like that was a game that you would play with your neighbors, with your friends down the street, and you would take turns. You might have 2 guns if you're lucky, and you could both shoot. But like, yeah, like these are the things that really drive me. I also like to help people a lot. I had a pretty unique childhood growing up. I'm the oldest of deaf parents.
Okay.
So a lot of the English that I heard growing up, I mean, so yeah, so that, and my experience in that world and interpreting and translating between different, hearing worlds in all situations, I'm realizing now that it's given me some incredible skills to basic talk and communicate with anybody and find ways to just connect people through, because I think they have shared ideas, because I think they'd be great. I love to collaborate. That, like, I've found that collaboration is like so key, and I love to collaborate with someone different every time. I did a mural with a friend, Rob, or I just recently did a painting with Rachel Coleman, an artist that I collaborate with. I'm working on a whole set of pizza trading cards that include, I think I'm up to like 10 or 12 artists that have already committed art for this, and that's coming out probably early next year.
I will say, like, your passion, like, it's the light on your face right now is, I mean, it is breathtaking, and I'm here for it. 100% love it. And you just said something that really struck a chord with me, but being able to reach multiple people. Like, I can only imagine that alone does a type of self satisfaction, you know what I mean? That money just simply cannot buy. And so that brings me to my next question for you. Switching it over to mentality. Assuming that you consider yourself to be a sane person, assuming I'm going to operate under that assumption. Like, how do you deal with this? Like, cause you got your family life, you obviously have your background, you have this nostalgia that you're wanting to bring to others, these happy memories that you're wanting to bring to others. But we both know, still living in the adult world, that's not always, it's not always going to be a happy path. So how are you mentally dealing with that, being able to still being able to put out that positive aspect through your art?
It is challenging. I will admit that it is challenging sometimes, but I'm still fairly new at this. I started this full time last September 2023. And I mean, I'll tell you, where I am now from there, if I told myself I would have this success at this point, I would have been like, no way, that has to be years away. I mean, you mentioned my passion comes through a lot. That was not me a couple of years ago. It wasn't until I made this pivot from 15 years of corporate IT to art. So this has been like a new beginning for me, a whole like a rebirth. And no, actually, I shouldn't say a rebirth. I should say this is me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's not, I've brought me back. Like it's me. This is all me. And for the first time, I can feel like I can be me and not worry about what other people think.
So what inspired you to do that change from the corporate world? I mean, 15 years is a long time.
Yeah. I knew right away I didn't want to stay in corporate IT. Before I went to school, I knew I wanted to be a cartoonist, but I also recognized that that would be a challenging field to be successful in. I was really good at computers. That always interests me. Problem solving is something I just enjoy, and that just seemed like the easy path, at least for a steady, successful career.
Yeah.
So, but that was my like real first experience in white collar, corporate America. I had some internships before, but it wasn't quite the same. This was a little more business, whereas the other two were like I could wear jeans at the last two. I worked for AstraZeneca and this is 2000, and they were allowing jeans and stuff like that. Then I go to Vanguard and it's like you got to wear a tie, you got to wear dress pants, and I felt like I was back in Catholic school again. And
Wow.
and I did not like high school. I did not enjoy Catholic school. Just being honest, not every school's perfect, but
Of course. Of course.
but
So so did it just come out of nowhere that you wanted to
no,
move?
no, no. Well, no, it was. That's the thing is this was carefully planned over a long period of time.
So that was going to be my next question for you. Like I know you said that the life that you're living, you would not be able to imagine that this is what you would be doing. We're living in the world of vision boards. So like, did you do any of that or all of that or what?
Everything. I mean, like, okay, when I find, I hope most people are like this, but when I find something new that I am just so interested in and I just fall immediately in love with, I get so excited that I just like want to learn everything about it. Right. So, like, for instance, trading cards have been something that was also I revisited over COVID and like that brought back nostalgia. And then that kind of like, then I started thinking of ideas of like, I got all these cards. How do I make art out of it? And then that generated more ideas and more ideas. So, but what I want to get to is sketch cards. So I discovered that trading card companies like Topps and all the big companies, well, there's not that many right now, I guess. Topps, Fanatics, yeah, Upper Deck.
Totally.
It's fun. But besides the printed trading cards they give out, they hire artists to do a number of cards, like draw and paint directly on the card. And that might be in your pack. You might win that. So they contract these artists to do, for instance, Marvel might contract an artist to do like Wolverine sketches, and then they send that in. It's paid gig, it's a professional gig. So I was like, wait a minute, this seems like a door I can get into.
Legit.
Yeah, because I've always loved cartoons. I never like wasn't really good at creating a lot of original cartoon content. But
Okay.
I love drawing The Simpsons. I love drawing Ninja Turtles. I love drawing Cartoon Network cartoons. It's just something I just kept getting better at. And so like fast forward to when I'm considering switching my art to art, when people see like Simpsons in your art and see characters in your art, like they immediately are like, aren't you worried about lawsuits? And I understand where they're coming from, but there's also this guy, Andy Warhol. Have you ever heard of him? It's like there's a whole thing called pop art. There's ways to create art without stealing or
Like infringing upon.
exactly. But this was a way for me to not only, well, some of the original stuff I like to do is like mashing up things. Like I had the pleasure to do 10 Popeye themed sketch cards, and it's for like a 90s Saturday morning cartoon themed trading card series. And so I made one card of Popeye, standing like Ryu, I forget how you say his name. He's like the main character that's in.
Absolutely now.
Awesome.
Like we used to go to the laundromat to play that video game. Arcade, yeah.
I'll have to send you the pictures. And then I made Bluto Bison. You remember the big wears like a military uniform and a hat. But when you see him, you'll be like, oh, yeah. He was like probably number 3 or 2 is one of the most popular characters. But like these are the kind of things I love to do is mash up things, create new ideas. I also love, oh, remember Roger Rabbit, Who Framed Roger
Yes,
Rabbit?
yes, yes.
When I saw that, I was just like, is there a world where I can meet a cartoon? Like really? I mean, that, yeah. I
Oh my
actually,
God.
yeah.
Like, okay, go ahead. I got to know why. Did you ever meet the cartoon, or you saying you brought the
No,
cartoon?
back to your question, I do think I'm sane, but
No
what it
judgment.
was leading to is I love the idea of cartoons having to face reality. So like the idea of
Ah,
like Fred Flintstone at the or
um,
something, or like or George Jetson in a therapy session.
ah,
Like
yeah,
that movie made me kind of look at cartoons a different way because like now I'm seeing them interact with humans and it's like it just made me think differently and it got
yeah.
me excited and Roger Rabbit's one of my favorite movies of all time. I can remember pretending to be Roger Rabbit. Like I was pretty young at that time. Man, that came out probably in the late 80s.
I was gonna say,
Um,
don't, yeah, I knew it was a long time ago.
yeah, yeah. I don't think
Here, don't.
yeah, and like I can remember taking paper out, making like a my own bandana, but it had rabbit ears. I remember like tying a rope around me to make it look like I had a tail. Like
So why the Cowabunga, Johnny? Why that? Why
so
Cowabunga?
I'm glad you brought that up. So at that same time, right? That's almost the same exact time period. You have the Ninja Turtles, you have surfer culture, skateboard culture coming up, and it just fascinated me. I just like I was drawn right to it. It seemed fun. It seemed like they were just enjoying life, cowabunga,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it's like just a common thing. Even Bart Simpson says it a couple times throughout the series.
yeah.
Like
Actually,
there was a period from like 85 to like 95 where that just kept coming up. And then so then when I revisited a lot of my past through art and everything, that's what brought that forward even more.
no, you said something earlier, and it's slightly off topic. And if I am pushing, then just let me know. But you mentioned that you had to do something, or you had to create something, and then you changed your frame of mind, your thought to say you got to. You had the opportunity to do it. Have you always been able to speak in that way? Has it always been you, or has there been a ebb and flow?
I would say maybe over time. I've always and I'm always very goal oriented. I always set goals. Like for whatever reason, like the whole financial thing and me planning my way out of corporate so that I
Mm.
could do something completely different. That where's I going with that?
Well, my question is along the lines of the mindset
Oh, the
behind it.
mindset. Yeah,
Like
yeah. So
the
that
mindset behind it. Like, how are you, because even I forget in my day to day language that
oh, I see what you're
you know
saying.
what I mean? Like, I have
Yeah.
the words and I'm like, I know I get the opportunity to have this conversation, you know what I mean? Versus this is a job, this is what I'm forced to do, and being able to catch yourself as quickly as you just did. And it's something I'm learning, and I'm kind of envious of right about now that you caught yourself that quickly.
Yeah, that makes total sense too because for 16 years I was all different levels of unhappiness at work, So, but fortunately, before I even reached that point, many years ahead, I had already made this decision that I was going to put forth. I wanted to get back to the goals. So the financial goal of me originally it was retire by 50, retire out of corporate by 50.
Okay.
I'm 40. I just turned 40 in September. The pandemic and then some family situations and some health situations changed a lot of my thinking about life. I had a child too at this my first and only child. So lots of things were changing in my life. And at the same time, I was becoming very unhappy at work. And so I think like I caught myself, but I think that's a habit because I've been saying it for so long. I have to do this project. I have to get it done by Monday. I have to do this meeting about a PowerPoint presentation. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so it's taken me over this past year or two to like really change my mindset. And some of it's been completely organic. And that's what's really special.
I will say and I want to make sure I say this on here. When I say I applaud you so much for this, because not only is it a process, it's having to unlearn a lot of behavior, but at the same time, when you are putting out art the way that you are from an authentic place, like you can't help but just be you and be excited about what's coming out and
So the other thing though is like you have to keep at it. It's not like you just learn it one day, poof, you're good. Because sometimes, like just couple of weeks ago, I got the flu. and it was horrible. And I don't know about you, but I don't handle being sick well. I actually get very depressed.
That bad. Oh,
Yeah, yeah. Like, because I have 100 projects that I want to do and I
yeah.
can't do it. I have a daughter that I want to play with. When I'm torn down like that, I get so upset. And it's like my brain, like my wife thinks that my body just keeps bringing this upon myself because I am going so hard at everything. But and that so I do have to sometimes take a rest, take a break, take a walk, do something entirely different just to recharge. And I think that
Yeah.
that's important too. Even though I'm doing what I love, I'm doing too much of it. You know, it's crazy to think. It's like I would much rather have this problem than the problem I had before. I mean, this is great. So I try to remind myself that. And even when I'm sick, I do the same thing. I try to remind myself. My wife tries to remind me. Once you get better, you're going to be like right back on your feet, doing all this stuff you do every day. So yeah.
I got it. I definitely again just take it from me. I love it, and I just want to give you your flowers now. Like I
Oh,
really
thanks.
do. I do appreciate. Really, seriously, I'm very serious about that. Like I really do appreciate you, and kind of again just being you. And what else can you ask for? Like what else can you ask?
Yeah, exactly. And like once you can be you, you're like, why was I
Doing
wearing all those
anything.
masks all the time? Why was I doing this? Who was I trying to prove this to?
One of the best things I've heard came from Jim Carrey in regards to that and the mask and and your body needing or deep depression is what he was really talking about, and your body just simply needing deep rest because it's tired of all of these masks and this facade that you've been putting out so consistently.
Yeah,
So
you just reminded me of. I know you were talking about the metaphorical mask, but he's also in
the mask, yeah. Mhm.
that movie too. When he put that mask on, he turns
Yeah,
into a cartoon character.
he
That was
did.
another movie where I was like, "Whoa, can I find this mask?"
We my husband and I we saw that movie just by happens earlier this year, and so we saw like it's in my mind very fresh, like very
Yes,
fresh. So
that was Cameron Diaz's first movie. I didn't realize that.
so we didn't know we were going through that as well, and I was like she was freaking awesome, but I agree.
Yeah,
Yeah, we went through that. We looked at that as well. I did not know that was her first. Had no idea how green
well,
she was at the time. So
that scene is iconic where he's at the
yeah,
table and he turns into the
into the
wolf.
dog. Yeah.
I love that scene. Yeah.
So, okay, we're running out of a little long time. I do have one final question for you, but before I ask you that question, how can people be continue to be inspired by you? Like, where can they follow you?
Yeah, you can follow me. I have a website, cowabungajohnny.com. You can just Google Cowabunga Johnny. I'll be the first one that comes up. I'm on Instagram, cowabunga_Johnny. I wanted something that, my full name is John, but I've always gone by Johnny growing up with my closest friends and family. So I want to be continued to known as Johnny, but I wanted to add the cowabunga because I saw it brought happiness, not just to me, but to other people. And it's so easy to remember. It's so it just felt me. It felt like me.
So that actually makes this last question very difficult. Okay, I love
Okay.
positivity, but what has inspired you
Today.
Like I
Man.
feel like, and the reason why it makes it difficult for me selfishly is because I feel like there's so much that inspires you. Like it's I know it's kind of hard. So
No,
that's
this
what
is
I want
pretty
to
easy.
ask.
So I mentioned I have a podcast network, right?
Yes.
Earlier this week, we were at, I think, like 300 and some subscribers.
Okay.
Let me look right now.
Oh my goodness.
1900.
Wow.
So we went from 300 to 1900 in a matter of 2 days. And a lot of it has to do with a very open conversation between myself and co-host Kerry. The show's called Empathy and Espresso.
Thanks.
So her love of coffee and love of an experience of mental health. So we released that 2 days ago. And back to your like talking about authenticity and leaving things in, not editing so much. Yeah, that's we go by that same thing. If you watch that video, I lose my train of thought. I flub some words. Like I accidentally turn off my AirPods. It's just, we're all humans. We all make mistakes. We don't have to always look perfect all the time. In fact, we shouldn't, especially for our children. Like they should see us go through hardships. I am so happy that Ava is getting to watch me build a new career in art. Like she comes home every day and I'm in my studio and she comes running in to see what I did. And I'm inspiring her. The other day I wasn't here. I asked Steph about this. She came into my studio, grabbed an 8x10 canvas, brought it in, and grabbed the stand, brought it into the dining room, put on her smock, and painted like 3 trees in a forest. I was like, oh man, I didn't do that at 5. And honestly, I feel like I have a lot of to do with that because we've
Yeah.
done so much art together and stuff. So I think it's really, so back to what inspired me today, the fact that an episode that is very focused on mental health, life, finance, corporate America, that was what really launched us into now close to 2,000 subscribers, not dollars. Yeah, right. Eventually it'll
I was going to
turn into
say, it's
money.
coming. It's coming now. Just be
Yeah.
patient. It's coming.
But that's not really like the goal of the podcast, is to just foster communities, help us understand each other more. Like I would have never met you if we didn't do this conversation, right?
Great.
I think I found you on Reddit. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I saw your Instagram and I just loved the energy you were bringing in, the positivity. I'm like, we need more of this. So thank you for having me. This was awesome.
Agreed. Same here. Thank you so much, Johnny. And everyone else, we'll see you guys on the next one.
See ya.